Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? There we go. I'll remember that for next time. That was actually a relatively simple fix. All right. Here we go. This is it. All right. I did. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. Technology is a love-hate relationship. Definitely. Okay, but now we're loving it. We were hating it, now we're loving it. So the other night, me and the husband, black conservative preacher, were talking about what happened at the Capitol last week. And I was of the minority, basically being not mad that it happened, not sad that it happened. And I wanted to kind of go into more depth about that, and then also talk about kind of staying woke and relevant these days and scrubbing the internet and what that means, because it's something that's really heavy on my heart about what I've been seeing on the news lately, and I think it kind of all ties together. So firstly, why I am not mad about what happened at the Capitol. So I know I'm not calling for violence. I don't think that's what needs to happen. I would not like to see that happen. Whether or not it needs to happen, I think is a completely different thing, and I'll show you why I think that. But a couple of things after I went back and I watched several more clips from the black conservative preacher's videos that he posted, and saw in a lot more detail the violence that was happening, and it was kind of relentless in some areas when they were kind of going after the police officers. It was very relentless. It just kept going and going and going. And there was a moment when they took one of the police officers. They actually got one of the police officers and were bringing him down the stairs. It was like it looked like he was crowd surfing, but he was being carried down through the mob. It was a very surreal moment to see that happening. And that's not something that to be proud of. It was disturbing in a lot of ways. But the other side of things that gets me excited about what happened is the fact that a lot of talk, and I'm not ashamed of this. I have learned more about our presidential elections, the processes, laws, and all of that. I've learned more in this last year than I ever have in my entire life. I don't remember learning anything about this in school, and I probably wasn't paying attention, and that's why. Not to say that they didn't teach it to me, but definitely something that I don't remember learning. So I've learned more in this year than I ever have. And so one of the things that I didn't know much about was insurrection in general. So the definition of insurrection is an act or instance of rising in revolt, rebellion, or resistance against civil authority or an established government. Now, if we are to think back to what's been happening for the last, what are we on, 9 months now? It'll be a year in March that we actually had our first lockdown. Hi, Kitty Boo Boo. Thanks for joining. Hi, America 2.0. Thank you for coming. If we were to, so it'll be almost a year. So we're about 9 months in, 10 and a half months into this. And if we were to think, why did the insurrection happen? Well, you've got millions of people who are still out of work. I know that it seems kind of like there's this new normal that's happening, but that's kind of the small picture. the big picture is there's still millions of people out of work. There's still people who have had their livelihoods taken away and ruined. There's been, it's not just about the forced mass, but there's concern moving forward about mandatory vaccines. There's little things. There's public meetings to legislative issues have been closed since last March. They're no longer allowing people to come in to talk about these things. Bills are being passed behind our backs. There's a lot to be upset about. And so now that we're hearing on the news, everybody, the first thing they do is they condemn the violence and they condemn what happened. But from my perspective, what's happening is they're programming us to be scared to take action. They're programming us to just go with the flow. And I saw a great thing today. It's so fitting. Only dead fish go with the flow. When you see a dead fish, they're going downstream, no issues. Alive fish are usually swimming upstream. That's they literally just swim upstream their entire lives. And it was interesting when I first learned that. It was like, wow, you're born, you swim upstream your entire life, and then you die and you go with the flow. And our country has gone with the flow for a good 10 and a half months now. And look where it's gotten us. It hasn't gotten us to where we want to be. It's gotten us to a point where the president of the United States is being scrubbed off the internet and nobody's batting an eyelash thinking that is a big deal. And when I say nobody, I mean most of the left. They're the ones who think because they don't like him and they think that this is a good thing because it's like, you know, a stab to him. This is what you get. This is what you deserve. Their rights will be targeted at some point. They're just not yet. So they feel safe as of now. So what I saw was the Patriots showing, it was a collaboration of patriots, conservatives, and Christians out there. What I saw was a group of people against what's happening with our government today, showing the world that if when push comes to shove, we the people will win. There will be no stopping us. And I think that's really what scares people, what scares the elites, the government. I think that's really what scares them, is that we've shown that when we get to the point when our line gets crossed, we're going to win. And they don't want us to realize that, you know. I have 8 children, so kids movies are kind of my thing. Sometimes I find myself watching them even when they're not here. So thank you, Ollie, for coming. Yes, I totally agree. Yep, learned more at this age. I'm 39 than I ever did in school. It's crazy. I've done so much researching over this last year. So I watch a lot of kids movies, and one of them that always keeps coming back to me is A Bug's Life, and it's about ants and grasshoppers. And the grasshoppers are the big bullies, and they come and they make the ants gather all of these grains and seeds and food. And then the grasshoppers come and they take it, and then they do it all over the next season. So something happens, they don't have the seed, and instead of the grasshoppers are sitting and they're talking about, one of the guys says, well, you know, we don't really need it. You know, why don't we just not go back? Because he threatens them, well, you need to regather all this and we'll be back in a certain time frame. If you don't have it, we'll kill you, blah, blah, blah. Something along those lines. So his sidekick is saying, we don't really need it. Do we really have to go back? And he says, he bangs his hands on the table and he says, there's more of them than there is of us. If they realize that, we're dead meat. And that's exactly where we're at right now, if the people realize that we are more of them than they, they're in a dangerous place. Not even that we're just more of them, but that we are powerful people. And our voices need to be heard. And the government is running the show right now. We have no power. I mean, I hear thrown around all the time, that's illegal. They can't do that. Yeah, we know. But it doesn't matter right now. Nothing matters right now because they're using the COVID as excuse for everything. And people are scared into kind of just going with the flow. So it's a scary place to be. And so one of the things that came to mind regarding this insurrection is a piece in the Bible that I really love. It comes out of the book of Numbers, chapter 25. And I'll read a couple pieces of it because it's just so powerful. Because one of the things that's problematic is the Christian sect has become very passive because they say God is love. Absolutely, God is love. I do not disagree with that at all. But he's also this. So in Numbers 25, it says, Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. So all of this wickedness is happening, and Israel has the nerve to join themselves, to join in the crowd and start going with the flow, right? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. So now he's saying, okay, do this so that the Lord can stop being mad at us because he's angry. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay every one of his men that are joined to Baal. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a midnight woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel. So they're telling him to go and slay all the people, and one of the Israelites has the nerve to bring one of the women that they're committing whoredom with into the camp before all the congregation, and they're weeping before the door of the tabernacle. I mean, how disrespectful to the Lord, right? So then when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, and the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel, and those that died in the plague were 20 and 4,000. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, hath turned away my wrath away from the children of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the children of Israel in my jealousy. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace, and he shall have it, and his seed after him, even the covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous before his God, and made atonement for the children of Israel. We have to remember that at the end of the day, Jesus is king. That's who we're really living for anyway. And this insurrection is not just about wearing a mask. I know people want to simplify it down to that, and it's not about that. It's about so much more, because you've got masks, you've got vaccines, you've got religion, you've got hiding your Bibles, you've got hiding to praise the Lord, you've got going underground for church. We can't even go into the building now. Where are we going to have to go next, So it's so much more than just wear the mask, and I hate when people try and simplify it down to that. That's the beginning. And so that takes me to the next thing that ties into this is this new culture of staying woke and relevant. I I'm infuriated. If there's one thing that makes me mad about the insurrection is all the flack that Trump is getting for it, because I think it is totally undeserved. And it's just their way of using it to give him a final blow, because they're such wicked individuals. But the first thing that all of these, and I've seen Sarah Huckabee do it, I've seen Christie do it, I've seen, who are the other senators and people who have done it, all the businesses that are now, the PGA Tour has decided to not use Trump's property for the PGA golf tournament now. It's infuriating. But the reason that they're doing it is because they all want to stay woke and relevant, because cancel culture is a really big deal. And we see that with what happened with Twitter, because as soon as they banned Twitter, a ton of Trump supporters jumped ship, and their stock went down by a ton. I don't know a whole lot about stocks and all of that stuff, and I heard that it's like billions, and it probably is. Who knows? I looked it up but didn't fully understand it. But the point of the matter is, if they don't jump on the bandwagon, Trump was wrong, this is an impeachable offense, oh yeah, we totally disagree with him, he should have never done this, blah, 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 blah. If they don't jump on that train, then, they're looking at not being reelected or not getting their benefits moving forward, because they're career politicians. That's what they do. And that's why we love Trump so much, is because he's not a career politician. He's not somebody who just jumps on a bandwagon. He forges his own path. And in my opinion, if they didn't think that it was absolutely possible for 80 million people to vote for an independent 2024 independent candidate, Donald J. Trump, there would be no reason for them to try and impeach this man 9 days. What are we, 9 or 8 days away from, 8 days at this point, 8 days away from his end of term. 8 days. That's shameful. It's because they know if he was to run independent, there's a whole new party right there. We just created our whole new party right there. It's an America first party going on right there. And 80 million people would do it. And they know that that's possible. And they can't have that. Because he would just, see, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. So if he was to do that, that's the end of the corrupt Democrats and the Republicans, because we know we don't need them anymore. We will finally realize that we are many and we are powerful, So they lost $5 billion. Yeah. So that's what I did here, and that's a huge amount of money for them. I mean, I hope that moving forward, after all the emotions wear off, that people won't go back to Twitter, because Twitter is garbage. And so, one of the things that really, so this is the thing that bothers me the most. And I've been pondering it for a couple of days now, and it's just breaking my heart. Twitter, Google, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, Shopify, all of these different businesses and platforms have essentially tried to eliminate the person of Donald Trump, the history of Donald Trump, the things that he's done that have been great. They're trying to even stop the rest of the wall being built. I mean, he promised to build a wall. He built a wall. He built a wall, and it's a magnificent wall. But the thing that breaks my heart the most about that is, earlier in the year, there was a big buzz around child trafficking, and for me, it wasn't big. It wasn't big news, because for years I've known about this and have talked about this. Child trafficking, 800,000, and probably more by now, because this was years ago when I was getting these numbers. 800,000 children per year go missing. And many of those children are not found. And what happens is they're not all killed. They're not all just stolen and killed. They're stolen and put into sex trafficking rings. So this wasn't a new thing for me. This wasn't new news. I knew that the child sex trafficking rings and human trafficking in general was a really big deal. Not just in our country, across the globe, but Americans are really big consumers of pornography and sex trafficking. And over the years, I've always thought, gosh, why can't they just get rid of porn and all of this child pornography and the sex trafficking garbage that you see online? Why can't they just get rid of it? And I guess the idea, it was like, I wish they could, but I never really thought for sure they could. I thought, you've heard before, once it's out on the internet, it's there forever. I mean, you can't get rid of it, people have crazy things released, sex tapes and all this other weird stuff released onto the internet. And it's like, once it's out there, it's out there. There's no getting rid of it. And then they scrubbed our president of the United States and an entire social media site off the internet. Completely gone. Like, it's real. They can do it. They did it. Amazon did it. They completely removed an entire social media platform off of their servers. So now it's been more revealing to me than anything is you can get rid of this stuff and you're choosing not to. Pornhub has been alive and well, in full working order for 13 years now. It debuted in 2007. And now one time has whoever's hosting it, most likely Amazon, said, we are not going to have this happen. Because, Pornhub, they would never admit it, I'm sure, but they have tons of underage boys and girls on that site. And here's where it gets really sickening. Science shows. So President Trump got banned off Twitter for what they say was inciting violence. I disagree with that, but whatever. Went against their community standards. Science shows that pornography actually changes the brain. It's very damaging. It causes breaking of families, individuals. It's children younger and younger in age because of the use of cell phones, and you see 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds with cell phones these days. And they have access. It's not just, and this is why our kids don't have cell phones, because it's not just what they have access to, it's what has access to them. And what I mean by that is you don't ask for an ad to pop up. The ads pop up on their own. So they have access to our children. And it's drawing our children to succumb to this pornography, very dangerous viewing material that scientifically changes their brain and causes major addiction by the time they're teenagers. Science shows this, and still they have chosen not to scrub that off the internet, to take that off the web servers. So, what we have here is $1 billion a year, billions of dollars a year in this business to keep the billionaires both filthy and rich. And never once has it even crossed their mind to scrub the internet of that filth. That's not only damaging to adults, it is damaging our children at younger and younger ages by the day. It's disturbing. It's really disturbing. And when I finally kind of came to that realization today, just pondering the fact that it's real, they really could get rid of it and they're choosing not to, it just made my heart so sad and so heavy. So I'm hoping that more people will wake up and stop being afraid to go against the flow, to go upstream. Because that may be our whole entire life. I mean, I know people like Joel Osteen and some other folks out there, live your best life now. Our life may just be to swim upstream our entire life. Upstream, upstream, upstream our entire life. Going against the grain. Narrow is the path and few will find it. That may be our entire life. This is a very short period of time in comparison to eternity if you have received the Lord Jesus as your Savior. So it's a very small fraction of time, and it may be spent literally swimming upstream the entire time. But that's what's important. So I don't know if you've seen movies like Hunger Games, The Maze Runner. Movies like this is, me and the husband have been to tons of movies. We've seen hundreds of movies. In fact, before all the movie theaters closed down, we had probably seen, during our marriage, we'd probably seen 400, 500 movies in theater over our years. So we've seen a lot of movies. And, it's not that the movies, they're fictitious to a degree, but I think if we look back on this last year, we could really see where they're getting their ideas kind of from real life at this point. Our life is starting to look more and more like a movie. And in Hunger Games, the reason why they did what they did with the Hunger Games is to keep the people scared to revolt. And that was the whole reason behind the movie. Be scared to revolt. Be scared to stand up against the corrupt government. Be scared to do that. And that was all the programming. And I feel like that's what's happening right now is, the news, the media is programming everybody to be scared to stand up against the corruption. And it's just sad, It's just really sad. So I'm not saying go out there and be violent. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying don't be scared to stand up against the corruption. And there's a lot of ways to get involved. And I'm going to post an article about this on my website, FranklyJamee.com, about how to get involved. And things have changed a little bit because of COVID. And they're using COVID as an excuse for a lot of things. They're using COVID as an excuse to deny us a lot of things. And one very specific thing is being involved in what should be public meetings where bills are being passed. Okay, so here's new information that I just learned before I got on here. And it's about the vaccines. There was something that came out that said that, I want to say schools, correct me if I'm wrong, schools, or maybe it wasn't specific to schools, but vaccines could be given to children without parental consent. And they didn't even have to tell the parents that they did it. Anybody hear about that? It was a bill that was passed. The problem with this is, and what I just learned is, in that bill is written an emergency clause, which, okay, so, and many people don't know this, I had no idea. There's like an emergency clause, which means that bill is permanent and can never be taken back to the people to vote on. It can never be changed. It can never be revoked. Nothing can ever happen with it moving forward. It's done deal. So while we're in this COVID state of an emergency that we've been in for 10 and a half months, and we're going to continue to be in it for who knows how long, everything that happens during this time is an emergency. It's urgent. It's, so all of these bills that are being passed, hundreds that are being passed with no public help, like no voice, no public voice. We the people are not being heard. All of these bills, all of these laws will never be able to be changed. They'll never be able to come back to the people to be voted on. And we never voted on them to begin with. But these lawmakers are passing these laws behind our backs. And so I'm going to find that. And because I just learned this before I got on here. So I'm going to look that up and post that on my site too. So you guys can check it out if you want. But, the problem is that a lot of these bills are written in such garbage language. There's so much fluff that, one, they're boring to read. I don't know if you've ever read the Constitution, but the Constitution is super boring to read. There's so much in it. It's strong and it's powerful, but just being honest, it's boring to read. I mean, it's not like exciting. I'd rather read the Book of Acts. That's like an action film. What's really exciting to read is the Declaration of Independence. I like that. That's probably my favorite. But I'll look that up. And I found I do have the bill about these vaccines available that I can post as well. That's a little less complicated, just kind of an overview of it. That's, less complicated. So, and then I wanted to, let's see. Hey, Mama Bear. Yeah. I was trying to talk myself out of it for quite a while there. BCP wouldn't let me. Okay. So let's see. I was talking about censorship with Twitter and all those different places. I don't know if you guys read the Epic Times, but there's world leaders around, let's see, from France to Australia to Mexico, French government, let's see, European Union, junior minister, all of these different world leaders are denouncing what Twitter and the big tech companies have done. So one of the things that I really loved that they said, one person said, is that or was that one? Let's see. Should be. We can. Okay, so it's it's problematic what they did as far as banning the president of the United States, but it's not that this freedom of opinion. It's not that it can't be intervened in, but according to the law, it needs to be according to the law and within the framework that's defined by legislatures, not according to a decision by management of a social media platforms. So, that goes back to the fact that if we're not allowed into these public hearings, what should be public hearings, how can we be a part of the process that's already laid out? The framework is already laid out, and we are part of that framework, and they're denying us that right. They're denying us a lot of things. The left doesn't see this as wrong because they agree with everything that's going on. But some of these leaders, these world leaders, are left-leaning. One man says he is a left-wing, he's Norway's left-wing Labour Party leader. He says that this is a line where freedom of expression is also at stake. If platforms like Twitter don't apply the same standard globally that they did to Trump, then it's a serious problem. If Twitter starts with this sort of thing, he says, it means that they have to go around the world and look at other people completely astray and shut them out. Except we know that Twitter did this just because of political bias and censorship. And it goes through a lot. I can put the link to this in the description box too, because this is a really good article. I loved it. It's just like leader after leader after leader after leader denouncing what Twitter did. These are leaders from around the world, and yet our own soft-bellied leaders in the United States and the citizens won't even acknowledge that this is a problem. And people from around the world, leaders from around the world, are saying this is a problem. But Alex Navalny said, don't tell me he was banned for violating Twitter rules. I get death threats here every day for many years, and Twitter doesn't ban anyone. So it's pretty sad when the rest of the world can see what's happening, but our citizens are blind to it. So I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, those are some things I wanted to bring up. Do you guys have any questions or anything to add to that? You know, another good story to read also is Judges, in the book of Judges. It's another pretty intense take on standing up for the Lord. And these are things that, you know, you're not going to hear in church, for one, because, I mean, that story that I read would probably make a lot of people run. And it's not like super fluffy, you know. And then the story in Judges, the Lord led Sisera into the hands of a woman. Well, this isn't your average woman. This is Jael, and she meets him, but he's fleeing. He's trying to flee from Barak, and she meets him outside and says, "Come in, fear not." And he comes in and he asks for a little water. She gives him, because he's thirsty, and she gives him some milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. And he tells her to stand at the door and lay watch, you know, because he's fleeing. He's trying not to be found. And so she covers him up, and then took a nail of the tent and a hammer and drove it through his temples. Now, these are not things that you hear very often. And, of course, he died quickly. And then Barak, the one who was pursuing Sisera, came, and she showed him what had happened. So God, because she was willing to do that, God subdued on that day Jabin the king of Canaan before the children of Israel. And Israel prospered and prevailed against the king until they had destroyed him. So who will rise up, you know? These are really intense things. Yeah, very intense. These are real things that happened, you know? And so we have to be diligent to keep our eyes out and be ready when the time is ready. But, you know, also not to condemn condemn our people who are willing to go out there and stand up. And like I said, it was really, you know, a lot of the visuals that I saw on those clips at the Capitol were disturbing. It was hard to watch, but at the same time I was like, stand up and let them know that we're here. We are here, we are here, we are here. So anyways, okay. Hopefully next time, I don't think next time we should definitely not have that audio problem, because I think I got it down. I think I figured out how to get that taken care of pretty quick. So thanks for joining me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you again. And I'll put those links in the description box below. So until next time, bye.